It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
This is Dan Jurgen.
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action.
This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright.
And you're listening to the Krypton Report.
The Krypton Report podcast is dedicated to all things Superman, Supergirl, and the planet Krypton. We discuss movies, TV, game, comics, and all things DC. So join me, Tyler, with my co-host James and Jania.
Welcome to the Krypton Report. It is I, your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the man of tomorrow. And with me today is sadly not my better half, the man of red, the Superman James, the man of steel. He is being super dad and caring for his wonderful Kryptonian daughter, Laura. But you don't have to listen to just my voice today. I have a special guest today. I have my new friend Levi here with me, who showed an interest in podcasting, and he wanted to give it a shot and see what it was like. So I said, hey, why not come talk Superman? So let's welcome Levi. How you doing, man? No problem. I'm always, want to share, share the love, so to speak, of you. I mean, we're just chatting Superman. We're chatting comics. I mean, if someone has an interest and wants to, why not give them a shot? That's how I got started, was podcasting with a friend, and it's all good. It's fun and it's simple, and so we're just here to have a good time. I had talked to Levi a little bit on Twitter, and I knew him from his Twitter handle, The Round Superman, and I liked his artwork, and we had chatted, and I couldn't remember the artist's name. He gave it to me, and that was the artist that we ended up using for our new Krypton Report logos. So that kind of takes a step back to, a little bit when you and I had chatted before.
Yeah, I was... You're good.
Yes, he does. My wife's not around, so here on the podcast, spoiler, I have a design I'm gonna have him do here soon for my wife for all her stuff. So you heard it here first on the podcast before she did. So shh. Okay. She will. One thing here, don't really have any really like new news. Seems like it's been, I always try to keep track of any kind of DC Comics news and what's really going on. We don't really address too many rumors anymore because I feel like there's just too many rumors that you just don't know what's real anymore. So, but yeah, no rumors. So we'll just kind of chat here with Levi. Levi, tell us about your Superman fandom background. Like, where did it start? How long you've been a fan? Just tell us your tale, man.
Yeah. And remember watching.
It was rough, people. It was rough. Know the struggles.
I mean, I remember watching pretty regular. Back out. Yeah. But kind of fast. That big box. On what real
amazing books.
I would those like started go up And then, of course, and from
Awesome. It's awesome to hear, like, I did some panels and stuff today with some friends, and we discussed just the impact that Smallville has had on a lot of people, their fandom, their Superman fandom, their, the weight. And I told stories about where that sits with me. And, I watched season one and two when it was on straight. Season 3, I kind of started to hit and miss a little because of just work. I started college. My times table was everywhere, and DVR was kind of coming out, but my parents really didn't have it. Season 4 I got back into it because at season 4, they started showing the reruns on the Family Channel, whatever it was at the time. ABC Family maybe is what it was. And I saw the episode with Bart. Oh. And I was like, huh. And then I had season 1 and 2 on DVD. So I went and bought 3 and 4 and I watched them. And then for the next 3, so 5, 6, and 7, I was kind of behind. Like, I would buy the DVD as soon as it would come out and binge it, basically, because I was in college and didn't have access to cable. And then by the time season 8 hit, I was able to watch 8, 9, and 10 as they aired. And of course, gone back many a time over the years and watched the series. Nice.
Even though I already.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I just, this year for Christmas was just crazy, and the Blu-ray set for both Smallville and the Superman the Animated Series I want, because animation, when they update animation like that to Blu-ray, it just looks beautiful. It's like you said, I have them all on DVD, and I love keeping my physical media. I'm a big believer in physical media of stuff that you really love and like. As we've seen, they've done a lot of tweaks and changes and little things on streaming services that are different. One of my favorite stories to tell is very interesting, and it deals with like licensing rights. So I watched Supernatural, okay, and I watched them all on DVD up until season 4. That's when I started watching it as it aired. So my wife and I decided we were going to do a rewatch at one point, and instead of putting our DVDs in, we just went to Netflix. And what's interesting is if you watch on Netflix the first season of Supernatural, all of the music is different than what it is on the DVDs.
I had
the easiest one to do is the second to last episode, where usually there's the Carry On My Wayward Son, and go to the Reaper episode. On the DVD, it plays Don't Fear the Reaper. When the Reaper's chasing the girl in the park, then look on Netflix at the same part. It's a different song. And from what I've been able to find out is they didn't have the licensing rights and everything yet for the classic rock songs. So they were doing kind of the standard CW of using more modern stuff. But by the time it was coming on DVD, they had reworked stuff and were able to put in songs they actually wanted into the release after that. But the Netflix is based off the aired version. Yeah, it was a big shocker when I discovered it, just kind of screwing around because I had never watched on Netflix the first season because I was just watching my DVDs. So that's all that to say. That's why I think having physical media can be kind of interesting because it's a lot of times the original intent of the show compared to maybe later being edited. And I know on the podcast, Always Hold On to Smallville, which I've been on and I've listened to and I listen to, there's been little things they've pointed out where things have been tweaked or shortened or something on the Hulu streams of Smallville compared to the DVDs. Just interesting stuff.
Great.
Right. That's why when Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, I bought 2 copies. I was like, all right, 4K and DVD. Yep. I actually tried it, and I was able to order it through Amazon UK and have it delivered to me. So I paid and bought it through Amazon UK because I was just like, I'm gonna try this, because like you, I was like, I'm impatient, but they hadn't confirmed if it would have been released in the States. There was things that was just gonna be like, nope, it's gonna be just on HBO. And I'm like, nope, I want a physical copy.
Yep, that.
And that was part of why I got the DVD copies because I have a program on my computer. So I rip the DVD and then I have it stored on hard drives. So I'm like, I have it because we fought for that movie.
I didn't.
Wow. I didn't know it was that big. I did download it for HBO Max. I had it just to kind of watch as I went. But man, come on, that's intense. So, who would you say, based on your little history lesson here, is your Superman? Like, who's your favorite Superman?
Not that.
There's no wrong answers on this podcast, by the way. Like, it's all personal preference. People will argue and fight with you all day, but you know what? That's their problem. There is no wrong answer. I don't disagree with you. At the moment, it's hard for me to say because I really love what Tyler is doing on Superman and Lois. I've said this often. I feel like when they went to do Superman and Lois, they studied every Superman and discussed what worked with each version, and they created the greatest hits version.
Oh,
so, the show to me has a special place. And I said this all the time, but like when I started Smallville, I was in high school, and then when Clark went to college, I was in college. When Clark dropped out, I still stayed in college. Clark goes off through his career. And then, they have the pseudo wedding episode where Clark and Lois are trying to get married, and then they cut to the future where they're going to get married and stuff. And the finale of Smallville ended 2 months after I got married. So this show is in such a background of my life and on, my journey to adulthood. And then jump ahead, Superman and Lois drops, and now Superman's a father of 2, which I'm a father of 2. My children are young, his are teenagers. But there's this, feel of like the character's journey is kind of on a trajectory like mine. So I really connect with what they're doing with his character and his Superman and stuff. So it just, Superman and Lois feels like almost like this spiritual sequel-esque to Smallville and Lois and Clark. So... I agree. Now, here's a question that a lot of people have a hard time with, but, you have your favorite Superman. Who's your favorite Clark? Tom's is always a fun, little like medium ground, because it's like, I look at it like this. He's one person, but it's like when he's Superman, it's kind of like being professional, when they're like, okay, Tyler, be professional. You're going to a professional environment. It's like putting on your best. But then when he's Clark, it's like he's being like a little just more laid back, a little bit more comfortable. It's not like he's drastically different people. Of course, Chris Reeve played it differently, and that was radical for the time because that's not how he was in the comics at the time either. And as much as a lot of people love that, I'm not a huge fan of that, because if the purpose of Clark is to blend in, being that outlandishly awkward, you're going to stand out.
Oh,
I liked his Clark the moment in Supergirl where it kind of cut to him talking to Perry White, and he's like, yes, sir, lickety split. I know no one says lickety split anymore, but no one says great Caesar's ghost. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir. You're like, and then, I was like, oh man, there's just, there's something there. So it is an interesting question, because it's difficult to what makes Clark, Clark. It's like Dean Cain had a good Clark, but I thought he was a little too confident, a little too suave, but it worked for that show. Of course, George Reeves was a very no-nonsense, strong Clark, and that works for the time of that series and everything. So,
yeah. But
mm-hmm.
of
Yeah. So it's a very interesting, idea of like, oh, Clark, never thought of Clark, Now, here's another question that, for some reason, this is a question that divides fandom. Trunks or no trunks?
I'm a. Think.
I agree. I think the trunks, for what they were, is a very outdated concept that a lot of people don't understand. No other hero, utilizes them. They are very, what do you call it? Of the time. And yes, people will argue like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah, but you know what? Batman adapted over time. I don't mind the trunks in comics because it's in comics. As far as live action, I think you can make it work without them. I think Tyler's suit looks good without them. But I think they did a great job in his Fleischer suit with trunks and Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come suit with trunks. But at the same time, I could not see the Fleischer suit being the series suit going forward continually. Yeah.
Like.
I mean, the thing was, in the New 52, I liked the idea of the armor. It was kind of neat because it was a Kryptonian suit, and it was something back to his planet, his people, his home, and it also, I liked, if you remember right, it kind of is like a nanotech, and they kind of did this on Supergirl. It was like a little patch on his chest, which was the symbol, and the suit grew from there. And it made sense on how he could, wear normal clothes and have a super suit. But, it is what it is. People will argue. There are Superman fans who are stuck with a certain mindset of what and who Superman is. And it makes you wonder, are you a fan of the character? Or are you a fan or just a fan of this version? And I know that people aren't open-minded enough to just listen to you and think, well, okay, I see your opinion. Cool. They want to basically, trash you for your thoughts and feelings towards the character. I mean, every version of Superman is somebody's first version. I just did an interview with Sam Rizzo a little bit ago, and Sam Rizzo hosts the Superboy Legacy podcast. His first Superman was the Superboy TV series, and that's what imprinted on him. And it's great because that's so rare to find. And I'm curious about with my kids which one they'll kind of look at as their Superman or their first Superman, like who they gravitate towards, because they're growing up in a time when they had, Henry, and then Brandon appeared, and then, we're watching Tyler. So which one will they be like, oh, that's Superman for me?
Yeah. Knows that.
And that's completely valid. I mean, you can't argue with that. Like, it works just as well. You can't say that she's wrong. I mean, I grew up with the Chris films in my background, but Dean Cain was on my TV every Sunday, and that was the one I was growing with. And then Tom hit me at the right time where I connected as, oh my gosh, he's in high school, I'm in high school. And that imprinted on me and stayed with me. So
I mean, what? Hard.
he drops out. I stay in college.
I don't follow.
I like to think that he was doing online school.
Oh, that's the head.
Yep. He finished his degree online, So as we move into this week's topic is the season 2, episode 2 of Superman and Lois, The Ties That Bind. Just give us your thoughts, just kind of overview of the show, the series. How are you enjoying it? What's sticking out for you? What are you loving? What are you not liking?
Just over.
Mm-hmm. I've said this. It feels more real, like people making more real decisions, a real dynamic of family than over dramatization, where people are, just making outlandish choices where you're like, come on, seriously? And, the thing is, my wife pointed out when she said this when we were watching it, she said, I like her as Lois a lot. She's like, I didn't know if I would. And, at first look, she doesn't look exactly like you might think Lois is, but she brings the character and then you see it. Yeah. And, that's kind of how, like, with Tyler, it's like him as Superman, you're like, I can see it. When you just look at him, you're like, I see it. It's but then when you watch him act and he does it, you're like, there it is. It's not what you would think of as Superman, much like Dean Cain. You look at him like, oh, I kind of see it, but then you're like, when he does the character, like, okay, now I see it more. I second so much of your thoughts of, my only fear with the show is, gosh, it's so good. How long do they keep it up? Before it's like, that turn. And I think it comes a lot down to the head writer and showrunner, Todd Helbing. He started The Flash, and you go back and watch he was on The Flash, I think, for the first 2 seasons as a head writer, or part of I can't remember. But anyways, you go back and watch The Flash when it first started, it had a lot of that really good dynamic. And we're watching this, I can see that. I'm enjoying this. Season 1 was our Wednesday morning breakfast show because I bought the season and it would download, and then Wednesday morning I get up and make breakfast, the kids were, my son was in kindergarten being homeschooled, so we didn't have to go. My wife didn't have to go to work till later. So we'd get up, I'd make breakfast, and we'd all eat breakfast and watch the show. This season is more of my wife and I watch it, then I watch it with the kids later because I don't want to wait forever.
Yeah.
So let's get into this season. How are you liking this season so far?
I'm really.
Who are you thinking?
I would.
That is a really good idea. I am still, and I say this, I could be wrong. It's no big deal. I'm still not 100% sure it's Doomsday. I think they give us enough clues that we think it is because they have the suit underground. It sounds like he's from another dimension. My buddy Brian pointed out today, like, what if it's another Tyler Superman from a different Earth, and that's why they're kind of mentally connected. And we started talking about how they depicted when two people from different Earths were on the same Earth in other Arrowverse shows, how they acted and interacted. I was joking with James about watching be Rogol Czar, and until that costume suit comes off, I'm not 100% it is Doomsday. Now, a twist of it being like super doomed would be awesome. Or it's Doomsday that he destroys and we get the super doomed virus. Because that was an awesome storyline in the comics.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, I do. I totally do. I just reread that last year. Yeah, I reread it last year.
I thought it would have been like. I feel.
And it's one of those, I'm feeling at the point where I'm like, am I excited in a way? Because I feel like they didn't do Doomsday well enough in BVS. He didn't look like Doomsday. Like, he needed to look more Doomsday. Smallville's was pretty cool for a TV budget, but he was barely there and gone. Do I want to see the death of Superman again? No, I don't. I'll be honest with you. And I have a theory. And I'll tell you my theory after we discuss this episode.
All right. Yeah. I mean, if they.
Dude, in my headcanon, until they prove me wrong, Krypton is a prequel to this series. They have yet to do anything that contradicts. One person tried to argue with me online that his cape doesn't have the yellow S on the back. I'm like, bro, that can change in a costume change in between seasons. Also, in the first season, or in the first episode of this season, I pointed it out on social media, when they're showing the merchandise being sold, in the vendor's booth, there is a red cape with a yellow S on the back of it. So that means that maybe at one time he did have it, or foreshadowing or something. So if that's the only thing that someone's going to argue with me about, that why they can't connect, that's come on, seriously. Especially in the post-crisis era, because we saw Zod pre-crisis, on Supergirl, but now we're post-crisis, so the Zod of Krypton could now be the correct Zod. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Because Colin Salmon Zod is awesome.
That Krypton. I will say, and
I want to see. I want to see the pilot before they reshot and edited it, because because I share with my friend when they first put the teaser trailer out there. There was footage in that first trailer that did not end up in the series, and it had more of the Man of Steel tie-in stuff, and then they kind of redid it. But season 2 was amazing. I wish we would have got, since they canceled it, could have got a Krypton like Sci-Fi Channel movie to tie up where the season ended. But and we always cheered. I don't know if you watched Supergirl, but we wanted William Day to become Doomsday because that's who he was on Krypton. He was the Kryptonian that was turned into Doomsday. So we kept, cheering for that to happen. So, but anyways, Doomsday does always feel like, oh, we got to kill Superman, or we would need him to fight somebody tough. Doomsday's the one to go. I really like the Death of Superman animated film, the way they did that story, the way they did Doomsday there. So I would like Doomsday to be along those lines. But let's get into this episode. I take notes, and what we've been doing is we've kind of been doing the story beats character by character instead of just kind of going with a summary.
Yeah.
But I will say, first of all, so we know there's John Kent and John Henry, and I just call him Henry, or John Henry, so we don't, get confused on who's who. Because I feel like if I say Jonathan, that's the father or grandfather. So John Kent is the son, and then John Henry or Henry is Steel. Just so we can communicate more clear, when you get into these multiple same name people.
Yeah.
But John, he didn't have much to do. We get the scene of him working out where he's trying to, in the weight room, he's working out, and then later we get a discussion where he thinks that one of the guys on the team is doing roids, and then the two brothers have their conversation in the bedroom at that same time about how their day was, and Jordan shares with him how he fought their uncle. That's pretty much John's journey in this episode. He was not there that much, and I do find it weird. I don't know if you caught this, that last season ended where he was courting Tegan, and then all of a sudden now over summer he has Candace. James and I at first were like, was she recast? And then we looked it up and no, it's two different characters.
I am John.
I have a kind of working theory that John has some sort of power, but not like my theory is that John will end up having like his dad's speed. Like and he's like a little bit more resilient to stuff. Like he doesn't have super strength or like invulnerable, but he's tougher than your average person. And I think that might come to fruition later. It's just a personal thing. Because we haven't seen, Jordan seems to only have certain abilities. He hasn't shown signs of speed yet. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe John ended up getting speed. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning with the fact that, we've had this discussion that John on the show is not exactly John from the comics. They cook a character, John Kent, and split him into two different characters with Crisis. You put Jordan and John together, you have more of the John of the comics. This is different interpretation because we have two different children of Superman. My next character on my list is Nat. This was a great episode to really, I think, bring Nat out and kind of give her something to do. I had to chuckle at the opening scene of Lois making breakfast, and Nat says, "I'm vegan," because my wife is hardcore vegan. I'm a vegan selectarian. That's what I call myself, because every now and then I like mozzarella sticks. And my wife's in here giving me a dirty look. No, she's not. She's just playing. So I had to chuckle at the scene where...
that was fun. And good.
Yeah. And Lois is like, "I'll make you some oatmeal." Like, she doesn't miss a beat. She's like, boom. And then, I love how Jordan is like, "Hey, this is my friend Nat." Like, he just, brings her into the fold. And then Nat and Sarah hit it off as friends, which is great because that's what Nat needs. Like, jumping back to last week's episode beforehand, how Nat was going to the school that she went to on her Earth, which was a horrible idea. Horrible idea. She needed that fresh start. And then, of course, her later beat is basically going over to Sarah's house, and she gets the car running that Sarah and her dad have been working on and haven't been able to get going. And, of course, Nat gives Sarah the advice to actually talk with Jordan.
Yeah,
It's a great line. It's a great
explain that.
Yes, they worked together back in Metropolis. They did some covert stuff, journalism stuff. Yeah,
that's right. I'm sorry.
Oh, who cares? It's all good. So my apartment, like right after I got out of college, was above. It was the second floor of this guy's house. He had redone into an apartment, and it was next door to a Catholic church. So when they rang the bells, it felt like they were in your room. And then we had like two houses down was the railroad tracks. So tracks, trains. I like to think of it as ambient sound effect, more faster than a locomotive. Just adding to the environment. The next character that we'll kind of go towards is we'll hit on the Cushings. Are you like me and kind of wondering where the Cushing's other daughter is?
Yeah, had that the first they got.
Yeah, I mean, at least in an episode in season 1, there's a throwaway line about she's at grandma's. And I was like, thank you for thinking of that and putting that in the dialogue that your daughter is at her grandmother's. And now we're just like, maybe they won't remember.
I never.
Yeah. But one of my predictions, like a couple episodes ago, I had my friend Nate from the Superman the Animated podcast on, and we talked about things that we want to predict for this season. And I had put, I think Lana should run for mayor. And we saw, like in this episode, that Daniel, who she's backing and basically running his campaign, drops out. And Kyle, as a good husband, pushes and helps his wife enter the race to be mayor. And I think that's exactly what needs to happen for this character. Exactly. See, you're right there with me. Like that's what I think cemented about Lana becoming the heart of Smallville.
Yeah, I'm right.
I think Kyle has been written realistically. I think they were able to avoid a lot of pitfalls and stereotypes where he wasn't really an a-hole. He did a-hole-ish things, but you could see his point of view and why he's acting and doing what he's doing for the town. He had problems with his wife, but he wasn't an abusive bad husband. Like, they didn't fall down these tropes, and he's constantly been trying to build himself back better. So I think they've done a good job of writing him as a realistic person.
I revise.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. What other character? We got, we'll do Lois. We talked about Lois. She's working on bettering her relationship as a friend to Nat, a friend to John Henry. We got a great scene of John Henry and Lois working as Lois asks for his help to try to figure out what these earthquakes are. The one thing about this is I don't know how to feel about Chrissy's character. And I feel like if some things outside of the media had been different, Chrissy would have been Chloe. But they didn't want to do that route. But she kind of gives me an older Chloe vibe. But in this, I'm like, they talk about Lois's story, and there's a podcast that's deconstructing it. Look, I podcast. I know a lot of podcasters. They're really high quality podcasts, but just because someone on a podcast is deconstructing something, do they really have the clout? Like, who is this person? Are they a journalist? Are they a professional? Or are they just some, fan out there who's decided that they're going to reinvestigate people's assignments, and they're tearing apart this piece that Lois wrote and saying that she was too close and too personal. And I'm like, Chrissy feels like she almost has an axe to grind with Lois. Like, she's always looking for Lois's faults. She's not really trusting her. And, this is our first mention of Lucy in this episode, which is interesting because in season 1, when Lois talks about her dad as a father, I thought would have been a great way to slip a line about her sister Lucy in there. And we know Lucy's coming. But, this is the first where we get a mention of her in the show.
On all
Yeah. Yeah, I am too. I thought she did a great job as Lucy. And now it's, Lucy's different because it's post-crisis. It's a different Lucy. Like, that history is not there of who she was pre-crisis. She's not the same Lucy that we saw in Supergirl. So I think that's fascinating. That's interesting, but it's still connective tissue,
I think that's how
I agree, because you can't say that it's separate, because we got Diggle showed up, and there was lines dropped about like Oliver and stuff. So we can't say that's completely separate. My hope had been that Supergirl the series season 6 had taken place before this show started, and that show ended differently, just because of how when things aired. But I would love Melissa to show up on the show at least one time. Cousin Kara shows up, and does something with Jordan. So
yeah. Even
right, that's kind of what bugs me. Is like, just drop a line, okay? Just drop a line, because I can let a lot of things change post-crisis, but we went to the Fortress of Solitude on Supergirl post-crisis, and it looked the same. And this Superman and Lois Fortress is completely different, but we won't go there. We find that Amertech is the company that was hired to get all the XK out of the Schuster mines, and that some of before they got there, some XK was stolen. It's being sold in the black market as like drugs, and we'll get there. But I didn't catch the name of the person who's the head of Amertech. But what we find out is whoever she is, she at the end of the episode calls somebody and mentions that the creature made it through, because we see this creature coming through the mine, and the miners actually detonate themselves inside and cave in to keep it in the mine. So that's right. So, a lot of people are saying, is that Lex? Well, technically Lex is in the Phantom Zone. So unless he found a way to escape the Phantom Zone and that creature came from the Phantom Zone, then okay. But technically Lex is in the Phantom Zone. I love John Cryer's Lex too. I'm going to tell you right now. Part of me doesn't want it to be Lex. As much as I want to get at least a good episode of John Cryer versus Tyler, so we get that Lex and Superman, kind of play off each other. I think he needs to be benched for a little bit because of how much they overused him there at the end of Supergirl. I can see that. And I really like your Wraith thought. Like that, it's a solid prediction based on the character of Anderson that we'll talk about here. Anderson is the person replacing Sam, of course. And we got one scene with him where they helped aid Superman, and he basically says flat out to him, basically that, we're not going to back you up. We're not going to help you. We don't have to do this. You're not part of the team anymore. So, you're on your own. And I think that's a good setup of, trying to get Superman to step aside from the DOD. And, there's this team of heroes, Tag from season 1 being one of them, that wear a Superman symbol and are basically little meta-human soldiers for the government. And I have a theory about where that's going to go. So Anderson's proven to be, a typical pain in the butt military man. Now, and my dad was in the military, so I'm just joking. Like he retired and everything, so I'm a military kid. So that's why I say that with a smile and a wink. So no one can take offense to that. I grew up around military bases. So, John Henry, go.
I was just saying,
Me too. I thought that show did really well the first 4 seasons, I can't remember. And then it kind of it felt like it was a really good, well-crafted show. And then it kind of got into the more melodrama of high school when they started adding new characters to it.
It definitely. I think Tyler.
Yeah.
But for that.
What's interesting is I watched Teen Wolf. I started it and then I didn't finish. It was on Netflix. And then when back in 2013, they talked that Tyler had auditioned. So originally he had auditioned for Zack Snyder as one of the people for Superman. And then he auditioned for Batman before they decided to go with like Affleck. So when it leaked that he had auditioned, I was like, oh man, I got to check this out. So then my wife and I started watching Teen Wolf, and then here we are now. He's Superman. So tracing.
I like as
I was like, okay, I got to see how this guy does, you know? So John Henry, I like the part where, you know, Clark has his little headache seizure, and we'll get there. I like the line. He says, I'll take the kids to school. He's like, no problem. It's Nat's first day. Be doing me a favor. I'll take the kids to school. And then, you know, we got a really good scene with him and Lois being friends and working, and she asks him if he'll be all right. And he just says, I'll manage. You know, because we see that he still struggles with the fact that on his Earth, Lois was his wife, you know. And I'm still not 100% okay with that storyline, but I'll let it go for now. Well, you know, so still not my favorite, but I can see where they're using it for drama and everything. So okay, I'll let it go. But I just like. Good. Right. And the same thing with, like, you know, I'm loving the fact that Clark and Lana are friends. You know, there's no tension, or she still wants Clark and Clark has an interest in her. I just love the idea that they're just really good friends. I don't need the melodrama of like the love triangle or nothing. No, I don't need that. You know, and then fast forwarding to the end, John is the one that figures out that the tremors have happened 5 times, and each time there's a tremor is when Clark is having his vision, his breakdown, and he has like the seismograph images. So, I like him as John Henry. You know, my next prediction for this series is he'll get an updated, different steel suit. He'll get the S on his chest, and he'll get the cape. That's what I'm hoping for.
John.
So he doesn't look like Master Chief? Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. So now it brings us, we're going to kind of hold off Jordan until the end, because his story interacts with Clark. So we'll go with Clark's. Clark, you know, he's having the headaches, the visions, and he thinks that they could be left over from having the Kryptonian consciousness in his mind from season 1. So they go to visit Tal Rho, and basically Tal's no help, and basically doesn't really give him any answers. And then we have the beat of Clark going to help some people in danger and getting into a fight with a guy who's using XK dust to power up and attack. And that's when the Anderson troops show up, and we see who they are. And then basically Clark does have to go back and get Tal, and they go to his cave, his fortress, because he has a working crystal, which makes me kind of wonder, couldn't the mother's crystal be used in Clark's fortress? I don't know. But I was shocked because I had high hopes that maybe we would get for Lara some sort of previous super actress. My fingers were crossed for Stacey Hyduck from the Superboy series to be Lara, but there was no they released stuff like Angus McFadden will play Jor-El in Superman and Lois. Okay, cool. This was very under the radar. Like all of a sudden, oh look, there's Lara. And that was, to me, that was a big deal. Like she should have been a big deal because she's the linchpin that connects these two brothers, and we have really great scenes with her talking to her two sons. And that was one of my predictions for season 2 was we would see her because of his stone. And then we learned something very interesting. Jordan, of course, is with Clark. He's Clark's backup. He wants to come with him as backup. And they continue the beat from Man of Steel, where Clark is a natural born child and all other Kryptonians are engineered. And that's what Tal was, just like on Krypton, the series. So staying in line with how that show played out. And just another reason why Krypton, the series, is my backdrop in my mind for this show. So I like that. And then, of course, we find out when Clark starts having this vision, Tal lied. He either, A, was already powered up, hanging out in jail, waiting for the right time, or, got more powered up being there in the fortress. And I like that Jordan actually starts fighting with him and gets some really good hits in there. Is able to control his heat vision. And then I love when Clark breaks free and just pushes Tal and says, "Don't you touch him." I thought that was a great just father moment. And then they take him back to jail, and Tal has the comment about, mother believes they're still good in me. And Clark basically he asks him if Clark does, and Clark's like, how do you phrase it? Like, I know, but I don't want to believe or something. It's very kind of vague, like of what Clark believes is inside Tal. And I believe he does. I just don't think he wants to admit it to Tal that he does. I think he's conflicted about it. He's angry because it's personal. So here's my prediction. I'm wondering if it is Doomsday gets freed, Superman's battling it, and Tal gets out and goes to help, and Tal battles Doomsday. and it's Tal that dies, stopping Doomsday.
Yep.
Really subverting our expectations of, what Doomsday is, so that in one breath we're getting Doomsday and battling Superman, but we don't have to do the death of Superman, but we can get a redemption arc through Tal because he goes to help, because he knows what it is. That is my personal theory, especially based on the end of this episode where it's like, there's still good in you. So we'll see how, things play out, but I think that would be interesting little twist on things. So the last character is my man Jordan. I'm watching this with my wife, and we know something's up with Sarah. And at the end of the episode, when Jordan comes back and he's telling John, like, I fought at Uncle Tao. He's like, what? He's like, I got some punches in there. I think I could have took him. And then Nat says, you need to talk to Sarah. She's downstairs on the porch, and Jordan goes to talk to her. And he comes out and he says, what did I do? Did I say something to them? And, we find out that at camp, Sarah got caught up in the moment and ended up kissing someone else. It was a girl at camp. And Jordan just kind of pauses and he's like, well, you want to date her now? What? Why? And Sarah's, trying to be nice, and Jordan just like, I'll see you at school, and walks away. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, that was me. I'm like, I feel every ounce of pain that he has, because I had situations in high school where I was very much the open bleeding heart like Jordan. I had some girls do me wrong. And if I had had heat vision, I would have walked in that door, out the back door, and been in the field setting on a blaze, yelling as fire shot from my eyes. But I just felt his pain, where you didn't do anything wrong. You're just the good person, but you get hurt anyways. And
I did great.
Totally. He wants her to be happy, and I think he wants to know what to feel. And maybe I'm projecting in a sense of just like, well, if Sarah doesn't want me, I know how to process those emotions. I know what to do. But if she does want me, I have to kind of live with this pain. At the same time, like, I can't be mad at her because I still want to be. It's like it's very difficult. Emotions suck. Yeah. Okay. Because you're like, I want to be with this person. They want to be with me, but they hurt me on this level. What do I do? How should I feel? And that's what Jordan's going to deal with. And it sucks because in one hand, I kind of get where, Sarah's like, I got caught up in the moment. Like, it just happened. And I'm like, I understand that, how things can happen. But at the same time, I'm like, but you hurt my man Jordan. Like, things aren't going to be that easy for you. Yeah. I don't. Yeah, like, oh yeah. And when I get really angry, I just want to burn stuff down with my eyes. Not really, Doc. Metaphorically. Yeah. I how do you deal with therapy? I put on a suit and go and beat people up.
It was fun to watch.
It's interesting because, and then I'm like, well, what are they going to do with Sarah? Like, are they going to try to explore this, sexuality storyline, or are they just going to be like, it happened? I'm kind of curious, like, how far down do they want to do this storyline? Are they going to try to pull? I don't want them to try to do something where they try to pull it around where Sarah's now interested in like Nat or something. Because I think that would just be over drama and just too. That was mine too. I was like, oh man, don't do that, because then that's just gonna like be too much soap opera drama. And I'm like, I don't want that. Like, you're doing so good with like being believable. I don't want to go down this like my ex-girlfriend now likes my pseudo other dimensional sister. That would I mean, yeah, we got to figure something out. So it's like biologically they are step siblings, because I guess the DNA of Lois on that Earth would be the same as the DNA of Lois of this Earth. So from a biological episode, like, they would be step siblings. So yeah, but that's episode 2, Ties That Bind. I thought it was really good all around. I can't wait for the next episode here, Tuesday night / Wednesday for those of us who can't watch live and have to wait for it to drop on iTunes. We're supposed to get a reveal in episode 3 of who the villain is, and I don't think it'll be the reveal of what's in the mind. I think it'll be maybe who the villain is behind things. I listened to a great interview with Todd Helbing on the Hall of Justice podcast. So anyone who's interested, go and listen to that, and you'll really kind of hear where he's coming from for the show. So that'll help kind of frame where the show is. Any final thoughts? All righty. We'll kind of put a pin in it here. Levi, it's been great having you on, man. It's been a great discussion. Yeah, I know sometimes wives can just look at you and be like, find friends, please. Find somebody else.
Exactly.
So if people want to reach out to you, where's the best place to reach out to you?
Best.
All right. And of course here, send us a message, any kind of feedback for Krypton Report on any of our social media. Send us an email. And remember,
Look up in the sky.
do you like movies? Of course you do. Do you like comic book movies? Of course you do. Well, our Patreon is launched now. It's $1 a month. That's all we ask. $1 a month to hear great content. And right now, one of the biggest things we're doing on our Patreon is movie commentaries. I am a movie person, and I love to talk about movies. So what we're doing is at least 2 movie commentaries a month. You'll hear the wonderful voice of my wife, Jania, more often, and other special shows. Check out our Patreon at kryptonreport.com/Patreon. And all we ask is, hey, $1, it helps us keep the show on. We're not looking to get rich. We just help with the cost of doing this, and it helps a friend out. You loan a friend $1, you probably have $1 lying around the house and change. So check out patreon.com/KryptonReport. Sign up for the $1 a month and send us a message. You can be on the podcast. We can talk about something, anything you want to talk about. You can join us for a movie commentary if you want. So check it out.
And if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
If you're enjoying this podcast, here's some of our favorite podcasts to check out. Digging for Kryptonite, The Aspiring Kryptonian, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Last Sons of Krypton, The Geek of Steel, The All-Star Superfan Podcast, It All Comes Back to Superman, and Superboy Legacy, Supergirl Radio, and of course, always hold on to Smallville. Check all those out, enjoy those supercasts, and remember, keep listening. The Krypton Report is a Tears production. We thank you for listening and enjoying, and please support us on our Patreon account, our TeePublic store, and check out our social media. Always remember to look up in the sky.